President Akufo Addo, who's indicating that the government is undertaking some rigorous expenditure rationalization and prudent spending to meet the conditions set by the International Monetary Fund in order to access the second tranche of the bailout in the next 6 months. The IMF board last week approved Ghana's request for a $3 billion bailout, resulting in the release of the first $600 million to the Bank of Ghana, but subsequent releases will be hinged on Ghana meeting certain conditions set by the fund, which includes improvement in domestic revenue mobilization. In an interaction session at the ongoing Qatar Economic Forum, the president indicated the government is very much aware of its obligation and will live up to expectation.
Our expenditures, the rationalization of government expenditures is something that we have given the assurance. The domestic revenue mobilization is absolutely critical for us. Already we're beginning to see signs of that. We are the fiscal deficit to come back within the thresholds that we have a law, a fiscal responsibility law in Ghana, which has pegged our fiscal deficits at 5%. At the moment, is way above that, and the sooner we can bring that again to a more acceptable threshold, the better it is for our economy. So these are all several areas of activity that we see as being absolutely essential for the future of our country.
How concerned are you that, Ghana next year has an election, you'll be leaving office. Are you concerned, considering inflation right now is north of 40%, there's already a lot that Ghanaians are enduring, that this could potentially hurt your party going into the next election?
I think that the global situation has not been kind to incumbent governments all over the world, and our situation will be no different. But at the same time, I believe that we have enough time. We have 18 months. I leave office in January 25, which is literally 18 months, 19 months from now, to be able, with a very disciplined approach to the implementation of the IMF program, the repositioning of our economy, to be able to bring some growth back into the economy, some relief back to our population, to be able to convince them that yes, it's worth them continuing the journey with my party and the new leader of our party, who we'll choose in November this year.
And we know that until the IMF bailout last week, Ghana had been locked out from the international markets, but the policy credibility provided by the fund means a reopening of the markets to Ghana. But despite the risk of further piling of debt, the President Akufo Addo is indicating that Ghana will go to the markets to borrow.
We went in July last year,
right, and
it has taken us July to May to secure a program. We had a staff level agreement with the fund in December. Right. It's a relatively quick period. And finally in May, we've secured the fund.
What do you attribute the delays to?
I think it's the usual negotiations with the IMF. They take time. And in fact, the 10 months which has been involved in the Ghanaian program is one of the fastest on record. There's a whole lot of stuff that you have to go through in terms of exchange of data, the negotiations, making sure that the macro indices that you are looking for are in the right direction. All of these are the ones that consume the time. But nevertheless, it's over. And now we believe that it is going to provide us with a foundation for redirecting the economy, for repositioning the Ghanaian economy, firstly, to regain the macro stability that had been lost. Secondly, to be able to have a better control over important data like interest rates, inflation. And then finally also to position us to be able to go back into the international capital market, which had been a source of funding for us for the first 3 or 4 years of our government.
I want to bring in our spokesperson, Kofi Tonto. He's a government spokesperson, so he's been monitoring, very much aware of what the president has been talking about and the implications. Kofi, correct me if I'm wrong. For some, government is just looking for means to go back to the international markets to borrow some more. Is that a correct notion to hold? It appears we're having some challenges there. Kofi Tonto is a government spokesperson. Let's try one more time and see if our connection to him will be much better this time round. Kofi, can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. The impression is that, of course, government is just looking for another means of getting back onto the international market and borrowing some more. Correct?
No. See, when we reached out to the IMF for balance of payment support, typically what happens is once you get the support, it opens you up for other opportunities, other bilateral or multilateral opportunities. It also gives you the credibility for the international monetary or the capital market to give you access to financing. What the president was saying simply was referencing the fact that once we've been able to get the IMF program, once we are able to deliver on the policy program, it gives you access to international market. It gives you the opportunity to go back to the international market and sort for funding. Doesn't necessarily mean
funding,
that the government
funding, you say, or borrowing?
Say it again, please.
Funding, you say, or borrowing?
Oh, I mean, if you want the technical term, of course, to
you tell me. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, of course, if you go on the capital market, you are going to borrow money. But my point is that the president was not saying that we are going to the capital markets now. He was just reiterating the fact that the IMF programs gives you credibility for you to access other opportunities in addition to what the IMF gives you. That's all he was referencing to.
I see. How about government and the expectation that people of Ghana have about the need to cut expenditure and significantly indicate that to the willingness to tighten your seatbelt so you can get the buying from the Ghanaian people? Are you willing to take that step as well?
Of course, but my brother, government has already taken steps in cutting expenditure. Remember discretionary cuts of 30%? Government has already made that commitment. Going to the IMF and going through that rigorous process included looking at all forms of expenditure that we can cut. If you review the document, it talks about all the other things we can do to cut waste. And then not just cutting waste only. It talks about raising revenue. When it comes to cutting waste, the IMF talks about the GRA instituting a new software that allows it to be more efficient. That's ensuring that you cut waste. You know, we have the exemption bill that's come up. We have all other policies that have come up to help us cut waste and then also to raise more revenue. So that's the domestic revenue mobilization the president was referring to when he was speaking in Qatar. Government ought to do its part by raising revenue and then cutting waste. And the government is already doing that. If you read the document, it's replete with examples of things the government is already doing to do that.
And we're set to pay the price even more, especially for some of the flagship programs you've been running. You've touted, for instance, the free senior high school policy. The fear is that giving a possible review by the International Monetary Fund, we are in danger.
Now, my brother, if you read what the IMF has said, they've made it very clear that whatever program they are doing will be pro-poor. And so there are certain policies that they've made sure, for example, NHIS, school feeding, and LEAP. These were programs they categorically stated that the government must continue to fund. In fact, the IMF stated that there must be a minimum funding that if any challenges at all, the government must still find money to provide.
Yeah, but
that
you agree that the fund says that the policy itself is poorly targeted. So even if it's pro-poor, it appears we're not targeting the poor in all of this.
Well, the IMF is looking at efficient ways of doing things. So if there are challenges with the policy, IMF government is open to discussing any challenges that are with the program. The government has always been open with that. That if there are challenges, we are willing and ready to fix it. For example, when we introduced the program where the students, some will go to school and then some will come back. I forgot the terminology for it. People raised it to be an issue. The government said we are going to invest in infrastructure and then quickly onboard as many people as possible. And we've been able to do that.
The president was on record to have said that the NDC's implication of a review of the policy or the free SHS program will mean outright cancellation. Do you have the same understanding when the word review is being used in this IMF document?
Well, the thing is that the people saying review had made certain pronouncements before. Let's put it in proper context. If I have made certain pronouncements in the past to the effect that I don't believe in this policy and that this policy must be scrapped, and I go on to say review, then it goes to show my true intent. The NDC has made their intent clearly known to everybody that they don't believe in the free SHS.
No, I guess that's not the import of my question. My question is, what's your understanding of the word review in this IMF document? Is that different from your understanding when the president says that any form of review would mean, of course, particularly when the NDC says that it will mean a cancellation of the program?
But that's the same thing I'm explaining to you. I'm saying that we all know what review is. A review is to look at a policy and look at efficiencies and challenges associated and look at how you can improve on the policy. We all know. But I'm saying that when the NDC used the word review, you couldn't look at it like you would review for any other person or any other institution saying it. Because the NDC had they've made known their intentions in the past that they don't want the free SHS and they want to scrap it. So we couldn't take the NDC for their words. Of course, the IMF is different. If the IMF wants to talk about review, we are more than happy to discuss potential reviews. The government has never been against reviews. We are just against the NDC's posture that we should scrap free SHS. We don't think we should scrap free SHS.
They've never said scrap.
Are you sure?
They've never said that anywhere.
No, NDC has actually said that. Prior to the 2016 elections, the NDC ran over 32 commercials to say that the free SHS is a bad policy.
When did you start running the free SHS policy, sir?
No, I'm telling you that they're saying they are against it.
Yeah, you're saying prior to 2016. I'm asking when the free... Yeah, so when did the free SHS policy set in motion?
Of course,
when was it adopted?
Came into power.
Yeah, so that was after 2016.
No, but I'm just establishing the mens rea of the NDC.
Yeah, so why scrap something that does not exist? The NDC was in power basically in 2016.
What doesn't exist?
Yeah, the NDC was in power in 2016, sir. You started running free SHS when you came into power, correct?
No, you are missing my point.
I'm asking a direct question. You're saying that the NDC says we should scrap the free senior high school policy, and your point is that they made the point in 2016. As a matter of record, the NDC was in power in 2016, you agree?
No, I was establishing a point that they have been making pronouncements about their disagreement and disdain for the policy pre-2017. Pre-2017.
But after the running of the policy, there's nowhere on record. After the running of the policy, there's nowhere on record that the NDC has said that the free SHS policy should be scrapped. You agree? A review was the word that they used. I don't agree with it. My brother, I don't agree with it. When we agreed on this interview, we agreed to discuss the discussion on China. I was not told we are going to discuss free SHS. No. Okay, then we'll have the conversation later on, sir.
We can have this conversation where I'll give you evidence post 2016 where the NDC have categorically stated and opined against the free SHS. I can give you several examples of that. But my discussion today, as we agreed on, was to center on a statement that went out about China and Ghana and some loans and all of that. So
Okay.
we can discuss that. But if you want us to discuss free SHS, I'm more than happy to come back.
The discussion is on the IMF, sir. We'll do
at
that
a different
later
time
on.
and discuss it
Yeah,
thoroughly.
precisely. We'll do that later. But for now, I'm not sure you have all the answers to my question. Thank you. I'm grateful, Kofi Tonto, for your time. I will do that again.
No, I'm saying that, no, but the discussion...
I prefer we do this again. Definitely, I will give you the opportunity to come onto my platform. Thank you, sir, for your time. Because obviously, if you want us to go on, then you're allowed to. But if you don't want us, we can talk about some other issues.
No. I have not said I shouldn't go on. Don't misconstrue what I've said, please. I have not said anywhere we shouldn't go on. I am saying that I agreed to an interview to discuss a particular aspect of the IMF report. Now you have brought on free SHS, and I'm saying I'll be happy to discuss free SHS thoroughly with you and give you the examples you are looking for.
All right, sir.
Let's situate issues in proper context. I've never said what you're attributing to me.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and discuss the aspect of the IMF report for which you called for this interview. We can go ahead and discuss that, if that's okay. Because there's a specific issue that I thought we were going to discuss.
You're not ready to answer my question on the free SHS?
Oh, but I've already answered your question on the free SHS. And I said that you are asking me for a particular example. And I said, I can give you the example when we have time to discuss the free SHS.
All right. So what would you want Ghanaians to know about the issues relating to China then? Let me give you that opportunity whilst we wrap up the conversation.
Okay. So there was a story that went out yesterday. There was a story that went out regarding the fact that the IMF has made a categorical statement to the effect that Ghana stands to lose. And I would like to read what the statement said. It says, China will have access to Ghana's mineral revenue, electricity sales in default of 4 loans. That is a statement or headline that was going around. So I took the time to review the part where the writer from Joy referenced the loans in question. It has to do with Annex 3 of the IMF report, page 52. Page 52 was talking about what we called enhanced safeguards. So under the enhanced safeguards, the IMF took the time to explain the debt component of Ghana. So they talk about the debts we owe to the external creditors, bilaterals and multilaterals. Then they cited 2 debt stocks. One they call it senior debts, and then the other one they call it the Chinese collateralized debt. They cited these 2 debts to say that these debts form a smaller percentage of our overall debt stock. In fact, they went on to say that the Chinese collateralized debt constitutes 2% of our total external debt stock and 0.9% of our total GDP. What the IMF sought to say was that these debts pose less to no risk to Ghana as far as its debt portfolio is concerned. And that is why it is classifying it under enhanced safeguards. Because before Annex 3, there was Annex 2, where the IMF talks about risk to the program. And then Annex 3 talks about enhanced safeguards. Now, the story that was put out sought to create the impression as though the IMF said Ghana stands to default, and if they default, their mineral revenue and then their electricity sales will be taken away from them by China.
Okay, so government's position really is, yes.
No, but the point is that the IMF never used the word default. The IMF was rather highlighting these things as safeguards. The IMF was not creating a precarious instance that Ghana is in this dire situation that China stands to take our money away from us if we default. In fact, if you recall and you refer to the framework, before government got the IMF deal, government had to go to China. Do you remember that? Joy reported on this. Government had to go to China and agree with China on a new restructuring program. So government cannot be in a precarious position as painted by the story, that we stand to default.
Okay.
That is not the case.
Okay, grateful.
And that's the point I wanted to make on this issue.
Grateful for your time. Kofi Tonto, government spokesperson, joining us here on The Pulse. Thank you for your time.